Here's one way you might be presented with the problem. I know what I'm going to do. Okay.
Make up your mind.
X cubed plus 125 over x plus 5. Okay, here's a point I want to reiterate that I've said before.
Why do I feel like this is way easier than how? Can you just put it in the Can't
Okay,
you just
hold on a
divide 125 by 5?
Excellent question. No, I love that question though. This is another one of my pet peeves. Okay, when you have addition or subtraction on the top or bottom of a fraction, okay, of a polynomial fraction, it's called a rational expression. We'll get to that later. But when you have an addition sign between your variables and your numbers, between your terms, you cannot cancel anything out or reduce it.
But can't you divide x plus 5 into x cubed?
Well, I have to do it by this process. I cannot do the x into the x cubed,
You have
and I
to,
cannot
or
do
you
the...
have to in this, because that's our homework.
No, you have to, period. There's no way to do it. This is not the same as, let me do a counter example over here. If I had 125 times x cubed over 5 times x squared, this would have been a fair question on the last test. And I would have expected you to do 125 divided by 5, which is 25, and I would have expected you to do x cubed divided by x squared,
X1.
where you subtract the exponents and get x1, and this would be the answer. But once there's a plus sign here, you cannot divide the x's, and you cannot divide the numbers separately. You must do this method, and here's where the trick comes up. Yes, Dean?
Who came up with these annoying rules?
They're sort of a natural outcome of order of operations. See, it's a trade-off. We don't have to have these annoying rules. But we can go back to just adding and subtracting everything. Because think about it. Multiplication is just addition over and over again. Division is sort of repeated subtraction. That's weird. Okay? Exponents are just a shortcut for saying multiply a bunch of times in a row. We don't have to have these rules, but we can go back to just adding and subtracting everything and no longer having exponents or multiplication.
That sounds good.
That sounds good. It would make math easier. It might make life more difficult in other ways. Okay, here's the trick to setting this up. The x plus 5 is no problem. But just like in direct substitution that we did last week, this is like place value. Okay? If you want to write 1001, if you want to write the number 1001, you have to include the zeros to represent that you have a 0 in the hundreds place and a 0 in the tens place, correct? So in this case, I wrote this long division sign because I must write x cubed plus 0x squared plus 0x plus 125. Did I leave out a degree or did I correctly write all that? I'm good? Okay. Now once again I ask myself, what times x gives me x cubed? X squared. Okay, and now I have to multiply the x squared by each of these. X squared plus 5x squared. Here's an easy place to mess up. Remember, I'm subtracting the entire binomial here. So now, I'm sorry, I've already made a mistake. That is supposed to be x cubed. X cubed minus x cubed gives me the 0. 0x squared minus 5x squared gives me? Negative 5x squared. Very good. Now I ask myself, what was, what times x gives me minus 5x squared? Minus 5x. You guys are good. So then this gives me minus 5x squared. Now I multiply the minus 5x times the plus 5.
Wait, you forgot to put a square up there.
Where?
Up on the top.
Oh, this is not squared. Because the question was, thank you, double check me. Minus 5x times x gives me minus 5x squared, which is what I was trying to get here. I needed to match an x squared here by multiplying times an x. So I multiply times minus 5x.
Got it.
I was in the middle of distributing, so now I have to go minus 5x squared minus 5x times plus 5 gives me minus 25x. And now I bring down the 0x. I could have brought down the 0x first. And I always write these parentheses to remind me that I am distributing the act of subtracting. Minus 5x squared minus negative 5x squared goes bye-bye. Positive, good Saul, yes. 0 minus a negative gives me 25x. Okay? And I'll go ahead and bring down the plus 125. And now I'm asking myself, what times x gets me 25x? Plus 25. Okay? Bingo. And what's this going to be? 25x plus what? 25 times 5? 125. What's my remainder? 0. So this simply equals, another color, this simply equals x squared minus 5x plus 25, no remainder.
Is there some trick where, like, you could say in that one case, since 5 going in 125, the thing's going to be 25, and since 5x is already there, or is that just because it's just that way?
Now this doesn't, there's no trick like that that works consistently that I found, which is somebody might have noticed though if this were one of the homeworks, is on the last test there was a factoring pattern where I said if you were given the sum of cubes, x cubed plus 5 cubed, it broke down to x plus 5 times x squared minus 5x plus 25. And you could have gotten the answer faster if you recognized that factoring pattern. So there will occasionally be a little cheap trick like that, where on the last test you were asked to memorize that this times this equals this. And if you're really good, well, if you know that this times this equals this, and you should also know that your answer divided by one of your factors is going to equal the other factor. So if you recognize that trick, it could have sped that up. But if you didn't, you have to work it out, and that's a great example for putting the zeros in. What makes this especially painful sometimes? I didn't do any examples where there was a coefficient here. For example, if there's a negative 2x squared here or something, it all just gets uglier.
But the process is still the same.
Process is exactly the same. I didn't do any examples where, and I'll check in the homework to make sure that I don't think you need it for tonight, where like this is x squared, and it doesn't go x squared plus 5 without there being an x.
If we find something like that, can we just not do that one?
You can
What
try it.
happens if there is an next one?
What you wind up doing is you wind up,
Same process then?
same process, but you line it up, you move it down a notch. Like if this were x squared plus 5, I'd wind up with an x cubed plus 5x down here, and you have to keep lining up the like terms carefully. Just gets confusing, but the process doesn't change. Questions, comments, concerns, compliments?
What's the homework? Your handwriting has improved greatly.
Yeah, it has.
That was performance anxiety, actually. All right. Okay, Cody.